Welcome again. My name is Don Liao, and welcome to this MicroMaster series with Aventis. Though I'm not sure, some of you or probably all of you here are students of Aventis Business School, but I am actually an ex-student pursuing previously a cybersecurity master degree with University of West London. So without further ado, we will jump into the topic. But just some basic rules. If you need to raise your questions itself, you can stop me anytime. But do take note that this is just a 1 hour webinar session. So maybe some technical questions itself, I may not be able to answer you on the go, but I will type in the chat later my personal email itself. If you do have questions, you can drop me an email as well for this case. But do treat it as a probably a interaction sections itself, for this case. So yep. And for those who have just joined, just make sure again, as I mentioned, please change your name to your full actual name according to your NRIC or your passports itself. So okay, let's start. And basically the topics I'm going to cover with itself will be on the aspect of cybersecurity threat in our nation, as well as what are the advanced threat prediction in the coming years, especially for 2022, which is a year that we need to be extra careful about. Yep. And so going to the next slide, this is just my simple bio. So again, for those who have just joined, my name is Don. You can call me Don. I have 27 years of IT engagement in SDLC, outsourcing, SOX, and IT security audit basically in areas of healthcare mainly, and manufacturing and bank sectors for this case. So I'm a Singaporean for this case. So but I've been based out of the country most of the time due to my job. So as most of you might be curious, me as a speaker itself, I actually took up a course with Aventis itself in UOWL, which is University of West London, for master degrees, and managed to graduate with an honors in cybersecurity for this case. Though there are a lot of other choices, but I felt Aventis schools provided the provided degree scheme and the curriculum itself is actually quite relevant for this case for my job. And my current role, I'm a VP in IT technologies and control governance in back sectors itself, which I work closely with MAS. Yep. So next. So agenda-wise, we will cover mainly in these 5 key areas in brief, because cybersecurity and cyber threat is a very heavy topic, and it's continuing, evolving. So, but I hope with this webinar itself, it will bring you the interest that we need to for this case. And for those who have just joined, again, please change your name to your full name according to your NRIC and passport, so that the school can issue you the ECERT. And also, before I forget, I do have a course manager, which is 𝗟𝗯𝗀, with me, which is from the school, that she's assisting in this webinar. Yep. Okay, taking a deep dive in, what you see here is actually a overview given by Cybersecurity Agency, or we call it CSA, back in 2020, but it's relevant. Why did I say so? Is because with the surge in COVID-19 back in 2019 itself, we do see the cyber pandemic itself has made a comeback, and there are increasingly more attacks, just the last 2 years alone, in comparison to the last 5 to 6 years. So report of like probably you probably already seen on the news locally that there are almost like approximately 30 high-profile cyber attacks targeting various industries in our island state. What does this mean? This means, in a summary, that you and me, be it whether at a personal level or at a company levels itself, the cyber criminals or the threat players itself is going to recognize you as a profitable target, to really gain information, extorting informations or monetary gain. So with the latest OCBC Bank issues incident that you probably have read about itself, that is one. Then data breaches. Data breaches during remote work is becoming increasingly more prominent, partly also because as we are being restricted to work from home due to the COVID situation itself, a home setup is definitely not as robust as the company, because you won't be setting up firewalls around your house itself or in your house network for this case. Maybe some of you do, but I think the majority Singaporeans or probably people working in Singapore are probably coupled with very basic network setup itself. So that actually entice the attackers itself to concentrate more at a personal level itself from a data breaches point of view. And because of this, it become a human behavior that we fail to inform or being informed of the threats, because as door swings both ways. Once you are working at home itself, your tendency is that you're probably all alone for this case, and you don't really or you probably communicate less, and unless you are really look into informations, or probably you're revisiting informations, going on the internet more frequently regarding to cyber incident, but you probably would think, or commoners would think that, hey, it has nothing to do with me, it shouldn't affect me. But that is not true. With that itself, when incident happen, most of them maybe they will choose to be silent, or probably they won't even know that their informations or their money has been been taken by force itself through such cyber attacks itself. And last but not least, I think the lack of awareness of cyber hygiene is common for this case. Basic steps like logging off your PCs as such before you step out. For this case, changing your password itself, or putting a more prominent password itself is lagging still in the Singapore context itself. Which then that brought to the second point on the right itself, that you can see not just at the personal level, at the medium-sized enterprise level itself. I believe, and so far these are facts itself, that we encounter at least one cyber incident. I believe all of you here working for your company will probably also hear from reports or your internal reporting itself, especially the compliance team or legal team, bringing up that their system has been hacked or probably has been subjected to vulnerability. Why? Because systems are lagging also the required security patches itself for this case, which we do see the need of more intelligent and more proficient involvement for this case. So with this itself, it actually also boils down to two things. What the attackers want is really monetary gain, accessing in personal intellectual properties for a further espionage, which I'll cover in my slides in time. Okay. Next, recapping the cyber threat in 2021, just for Singapore alone. These are the three major trends that we see, and they are interrelated for this case. Why did I say they are interrelated? As mentioned here, as you can see from the slide, disruption, distortion, and deterioration. They are a three-step tier approach itself. You may hear this before or you may not, but allow me to simplify it in a nutshell for you, that from a premeditated outage itself in the internet service, ranging from personnel to company to nationwide, the cyber criminals' main aim is to inflict loss itself and inflict critical errors itself as such that will cost you time and money. So the very first step they do, launching malicious programs as such itself, is to bait you into making very quick and unsecure fixes, or probably agreed to click on the link, for example, in the SMS phishing, for this case, spoofing messages that put you at risk, and then they hold you at their mercy for this case. And then with the disruption that they know that they can control you fully, the distortion comes in. So when the distortion happens itself, the confidence level, be whether at a personal level or at the members of the public itself, towards the government, towards your company, form that distrust due to the loss of or damage integrity of information encounter. And this is also the result why the distortion occurs, because people will just mistakenly trust the false information. And if you recall, 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 attack, which is on IHIS specifically, that has a targeted and planned espionage attack by Whitefly, which is a known cyber espionage group, which we believe is from China but based in Korea. For this case, has actually able to steal tons of data. For this case, patients' data, including our government leaders' data. So with that itself, and then the deterioration comes in. How the deterioration actually come into effect is, when the distortion comes in, expectation of by the watchdog to implement more surveillance laws as such on the informations that was once protected become exposed. So the same case for 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, when data was breached, they have to report everything to the report of inquiries pointed by the government. With that itself, more and more people actually will know what the inside information is, which is not saying that it's bad, but likewise, it just increased that chance of exposure. And then because of this, privacy regulations also prevent the business from doing effective monitoring based on PDPA, concern for this case. So making also hard to identify another kind of threat, which is insider's threat, which I will cover later for this case. So like untested AI and such itself are just examples. Yep. Okay, with the trend that has happened in our nations itself, let me come to you to showcase this top 9 computer threats that I have singled out. And this is actually based on my studies as well as my area of work, that I feel that is the top cyber threat, as well as going into the 2022 itself, it will continue for this case. Okay, first 3, phishing attacks. Phishing wise, if some of you may not know what phishing is itself, it's basically using a spoof message itself to target customers to trust you, thinking that it's someone that you know, and performing a handshake or probably releasing information that is personal to you for this case. But having said that, likewise, with the recent OCBC case again, we are seeing that that kind of method, though maybe sound old, is still effective, and it can be effectively damaging. And to be frank, just in Singapore itself, phishing scams itself is responsible for 32% of your confirmed data breach. And this is also accountable for 78% of all the cyber crimes that is being reported to CSA for this case. So phishing is old, but it is actually a very effective vulnerabilities as well as a threat to the nation, be it from personal to companies. So recent case, as mentioned, MOH COVID issues itself, OCBC, DBS are examples. Second type of threat that we see may not be how should I put it, may not be common to all, but cloud computing has taken place, has been driving Singapore nations towards a digitized nation for this case. And basically, what it does is that once it reconfigure your cloud code and manipulate your sensitivity data, it controls the account by infecting, by stealing for this case, and proceed with the same thing, distortion and extortion, or probably even go to the extent of identity theft itself for this case. I quote an example in Russia itself. There's this famous cyber espionage group called Sunburst. They are famous, and in fact, they are the first group, cyber espionage group, to use stolen security certificate from 0365 and create identities to bypass the multi-factor authentication that is implemented by Microsoft. With that, as a result, I think close to 10 million of the records in the US government's homeland agencies was actually been stolen for that. The results of recovery was not known because there was no continuation, but the damage itself through cloud as an entry point can be deemed as, I would say, scary for this case, because we are relying so much on moving towards away from on-premise basis itself toward the cloud. But is cloud really that effective itself? So it's really a chicken and egg for that case. And also in some other groups that we have come across in terms of studies itself, the hackers actually planted malicious program in as a dormant effect itself, as such that they are waiting just for the right time. And this could also lead to, in the later slide, which I will show, lead to nationwide kind of attacks itself that has some political flavors in for that case. Third point, network parameters and endpoint securities. This is a very heavy topic. And in fact, if you are pursuing your degrees in cybersecurity, my best advice is not to use this as your dissertation, because you will have a hard time. And I can say that because I use this as my dissertation itself for my degree for this case. So from a remote work environment itself, what we which resulted from COVID itself, we lack many of the security measures that we put in a company, but we don't have it at home for this case. So and because of that itself, we become a more prominent target for this case. Just give me a sec. I think there's a question. Metaverse. Okay, I'll probably take a short detour to answer for 𝗟𝗂𝗂𝗶𝗲. I think metaverse is interesting, but to me, I can only confer it as a very dark future for this case. In fact, I'm not well versed with metaverse, to be frank, but that's not my area of expertise itself. But having hands-on while on the metaverse platform, I make it realize that only two points. One is that everyone is actually becoming more isolated for this case, while at the same time they are also expressing more of themselves. I mean, only at personal level, I can't speak for company or enterprise level, more of themselves in the metaverse for this case. So this may also form what I perceive, I may be wrong, I hope I'm wrong, perceive itself a next level of AI to interpret, your whereabouts, your behavior, your style of work, your style of play for this case. And that can be scary because it boils down to your personal your characteristic itself. that probably only you know, or probably someone close to you, like your wife, you know, for that case. But we also don't share all our secrets with our wife or husband, right? So I think metaverse, in a way, likewise, we'll see that more attacks from a personal gain for this case, if the cyber criminals are taking more interest, and extortion will definitely come in place. I'm almost foreseeing that. The second point, likewise, will be on the platform itself, because as we go, you will see that more involvement of online currencies, online sort of virtual tradings as such. The virtual reality, likewise, is going to be a spring jump for this case for everyone of us, or even were affecting our daily life. So this will also be affecting more. And in fact, interestingly, to be frank, this is just my own personal opinion, is that it actually also will affect the way how we do things, because metaverse will probably able to incorporate with IoT in a way. We are start seeing that probably more common in China as well as in US for this case. So I think this is my take for that. I hope I'm wrong, but I just hope the metaverse will be a bright future. But I think I already start seeing reports as such that some of the evangelists or probably editors itself are claiming it to be a very dark future for this case. Yeah, thank you for your questions. So I will move on to that without further ado. So next three, mobile malware. Not new, but it has spiked a lot since after the COVID period, because we are all locked down at home. Basically, in just even in the context of Singapore itself, we are not allowed to travel out domestically or even internationally. So what we are relying on will be internet access, and mobile devices has reached that peak that has never seen before in the pre-COVID era for this case. I mean, you will see from as young as 5 years old to as old as 90 years old, everyone is using it. And also in the enforcement of, trace together itself, forces majority to try to learn and pick up mobile devices itself, or mobile phones to use. So with that itself, the attackers would definitely see a golden opportunity itself to actually continue to revise, continue to develop more and more devices in terms of malicious aspect for this case. Yeah, and just give me a sec. Okay, and so with the pandemic itself, also we are seeing the result of moving away from desktop, laptop to smartphone for work become increasingly important. Partly also is that it allows more versatile and more easy access itself. But then as like what I have actually just mentioned itself, it increased that vulnerability. Just for information, a Russian-based cybersecurity agency, you probably heard before, Kaspersky for this case, Kaspersky, I spell it out, has actually reported just last year in their yearly report in November that 9 million malware, adware, and risks are being detected and reported pertaining to mobile devices. So this is how massive itself, the impact itself on us. And don't forget, for all mobile access itself is actually linked to us daily for this case. And we spend, I think Channel News Asia reported that, if I'm not wrong, in December, that Singaporeans have spent average 8 hours or more compared to probably the year before for this case, which is 5 hours. So the increasing time spent, the increasing bandwidth spent on the mobile devices, the increasing need to fish out informations, install applications on your mobile phones itself become a possible vulnerability, because you were so used to it, and we saw cases that people will not have a second thought to just click and link or probably install even in Apple Store or Google Play, but turned out it was a malicious or probably a dummy apps itself that will actually destroy their information in the phone or their mobile device. And also on the other hand, BYOD, bring your own device back home for work, becoming more prominent, especially for startup for companies itself. But then that also bring another problems, that if the basis of IT infrastructures is not done well, the proper governance itself in terms of what should be installed, what cannot be installed, is not done well, this will again open another set of pandemic, or so-called cybersecurity pandemic in time to come, because phones are, the network devices, the mobile devices are all interlinked, if we were to say like a spider web. Then that actually brings to the 5G and Wi-Fi security vulnerability. And this is not new. Since with the launch of 3G itself, Singapore has propelled in to try to position itself as the leader in this area for this case. I think if I'm not wrong, Singapore is either third or second to Korea, which is first in terms of 5Gs or in terms of data network as well as Wi-Fi access. But then this brings a problem for this case, because if you recall, and probably some of you will recall, with the launch of 3G network back then and wireless routers device was first launched and becoming increasingly popular from the service providers itself, we have a tendency, and I have to confess, we have a tendency that we will sniff out the neighbor's Wi-Fi, right? For this case, which are not password protected, to try to gain some data access, because back then data was expensive. So is that primitive action itself that actually repeating the same? You're fishing out the information, and with the advancement of technologies and also logarithms technologies itself, you're able to create an even more robust malicious program itself to plant it in it. And to be exact, if as like the course that I have actually been through for the master degree in cybersecurity, in fact, one of the lab exercise itself require us to come up with a program and to simulate the Wi-Fi simulation by sending messages to the mobile phone, for this case, which is our mobile phone, and to simulate, likewise, if we are going to plant a project, a malicious code inside for this case. So if you are into this graduate diplomas or even degree itself, you will probably have a chance to go through this exercise for this case with the supervisors or with the lecturers. So this is just one example for this case. And last but not least, free hotspot. I think nationwide hotspot itself is becoming so prominent for this case, and with that access in public places itself, you're constantly seeing daily cases of information being phishing out of your mobile phones without you knowing. I mean, the classic examples, not trying to deny the fact what the government did is, if you do with your trace together, it's also some form of actually tracking and monitoring your movement itself. So how does it know? It's triangulation methodology itself that we use to do for this case into your mobile. So such information, if it is put in good use, it helps. But if it is put in risky or bad use itself, then you are being taken for this case, and you are at the mercy of the cyber criminals. Internet of Things, as earlier Wei has actually mentioned about metaverse. So this portion likewise has uh, um, an impact to metaverse. But coming back to the Internet of Things, you will see that the attacks itself are basically common using telnet protocol, because the devices that uses the IoT, from your fitness trackers itself to your smart security system, or even like your Google Nest itself, uses some form of telnet protocol as a baseline foundation. There may be more other layers like API and such itself, but the basis itself is always the telnet protocol. So with that itself, it actually allows to launch attack like DDoS itself, or even cryptojacking. Cryptojacking, if some of you do not know itself, is actually a kind of malware that was released, I think, in US, if I'm not wrong, for this case, into your system through Internet of Things, of devices. And then from there, it actually spring jump to the actual back-end systems itself, hide itself there, and uses the computer powers, which is mainly the servers itself or your computers itself, to start mining cryptocurrencies. The famous one, as we all know, is Monero, Monero. You can go check it out later, for this case. And this has infected a number of systems worldwide for this case. I think Singapore also has it, which is also the reason why the government is being very cautious in implement cryptocurrencies, not just for the monetary concern and the financial compliance concern, but it's also on such attack that, to be frank, currently we do not have such level of expertise in the market for this case. And then IoMT, sorry, Internet of Medical Things, is another new area that we foresaw will be even more prominent in 2022 for this case, though it started in 2019, late 2019 to 2021, because with the COVID situation, more solutions relating to IoT is being developed itself that connect healthcare to systems, but it also connect your personal information, which the hackers are probably interested to get, because those are valuable PDPA information itself. They can get hold of, make use of, and probably make forth to do an extortion for this case. Yep. Okay. Next, the last three, deepfakes. Not sure everyone knows, but deepfake is a popular no-frill threat itself in the market, or probably in the current world. You may question, say, hey Don, that's not even a cyber threat. Yes, it's not a cyber threat, but it is in a kind of AI cyber threat that we foresee it will take even more prominence in 2022 onwards, especially espionage to be required to conduct at the nation level, which I will have a slide on that. Okay, what deepfake does itself, it basically allow the fraudster to distort the reality and commit or extort the victim by spreading false propaganda news, by superimposing your face or your image or your voice or both to falsify the action or speech. This result, as mentioned, becoming a more advanced form of phishing, allowing the hackers to actually play the impersonating role of key persons, or probably people of stature itself, giving wrong instruction or harmful instruction to sabotage the company in return for monetary gain or political gain for this case. Just to quote an example, if you recall just last year, if I recall correctly, the time frame between October to November, Taiwan has a very famous case of a famous YouTuber, for this case couple, that was caught red-handed for creating and distributing celebrities superimpose image and voice on existing pornographic videos that they have actually downloaded from the web, and using a deep fake applications, which is commonly available nowadays on the internet itself, and through deep learning, they are actually able to create or recreate these falsified videos itself of the celebrities and sell them for profit. And the profit they make, if I recall, is probably around 11 million Taiwan dollars for this case, which is massive. So but then again, saying that though they are caught red-handed, the damage is done to the victims itself, and because still humans are human, the tendency of trust, of integrity of information, as I in my earlier slide has mentioned, may be compromised for this case. Then come next, insider's threat. Insider's threats itself may sound like a non-cyber attack, but company employees, which we have seen also in last 2 years, have increasingly occur in Singapore, that they pose a threat, actually affecting, based on the latest results itself from CSA, 34% of the business worldwide is actually affecting by such threat. And in fact, insider threat actually covers 4 areas: sabotage, fraud, intellectual property theft, or so-called identity theft, and espionage. Espionage will be probably more a well-organized attack from organized group itself. So with that itself, the deliberate attacks by the employees acting upon intentionally to hurt the company because of what they face, or probably they are being subjected to some scrutiny or chastisement itself, happens. But it could also resulted in accidental or ignorance or negligence of the employees itself, which is exactly the same case for SingHealth. SingHealth cyber attack can be prevented if you look at the inquiry, and the inquiry is available in full on the internet. But what happened is that the level of the leaders level, also called the middle management levels itself, decided to take it lightly, partly due to 2 key concerns: ignorance, which means thinking that it is a government environment itself, that it should not be hacked that easily. But at the same time, negligence, because of their unknown, unknowingly or probably complacent attitude itself, which resulted in the hack. So these actually will occur, and as I foresee also, this is going to propel more in 2022, especially for more employees moving towards the remote access itself for this case. And as organizations, or probably you as employees for your organization, I think you should take extra precaution on that, in terms of having a better governance rule and procedures to be reviewed and audit frequently to comply to the compliance. So as you probably all know, that you do have your whistleblowing protocol in your company. So this is just whistleblowing campaign, or probably protocol set in place for your company. Is actually a way to also prevent inside threats itself. API vulnerability and patches. API actually, in general speaking, is actually a application program interface. So what it does is that it's actually a messenger between your application and the processes or resources designed in a whole nutshell of the systems for this case. But basically, it actually connects to all the streamlining services, the connectivities itself, ranging from manufacturing, healthcare, to any small, medium, and large enterprise applications that you have, even to messaging like Zoom, for instance. it uses some form of voice and audio, voice and visual API to conduct, no, to make this Zoom meeting between you and me possible. But the security used for the API is actually less developed and less advanced than the web application security. Why did I say so? Is because usually APIs are not accessible to public or outside developers. Probably is done internally. So with my experience that in SDLC, especially a full-time SDLC management leader itself, we do see that there's an importance of ensuring a proper configuration as well. Not just writing a good applications, but also do conduct a proper security configurations itself, that ensure. So then that could impact the systems and impact the company. Examples like SQL injection, you probably already heard about. For this case, it does corrupt and dysfunction your application. And this is becoming more prominent again as we see it in 2022, because with the more reliant on APIs due to IoT, it also introduced what we call attacks itself on such called Bootkit. So it actually goes back, the attackers now are probably more prominent, and they do a reverse engineering to think about what is the best way to attack. So API at the very low level, which people were taught that should not have access to itself, will probably become a more prominent target itself, or probably also resulted from insider's threat when the developers that is developing this program itself will actually, try to sell the information they steal. I quote an example, Singapore Pools. The total program that you saw is actually developed by 2 individual entities for this case. So each one will hold 50% of the programs for this case, and in between there's a compliance and audit team that actually governs the API to connect together. So if any one side fail for this case, it will not compromise the entire solution. So this is just an example that I just want to share with you. Okay, with that I have spoken about the 9 key areas of threat in 2021, and there are actually more. In fact, there are tons of it out there for this case. It depends on your interest and your motivation and your approach itself. But I thought that 9 threats itself that I have actually just covered with you will actually help you, and hope to bring all of you into what I personally see as a 3-tier advanced threat prediction in 2022. Definitely to come, you're seeing at a personal level, as COVID entice us to work more from home, you will definitely get more attacks in this area, unless it's being strengthened, not only as knowledge improvement on the individual of cyber hygiene, but also in the coverage of network itself provided by your mobile service provider for both data and voice, and also implementing more applications or cybersecurity applications for personal use. That itself will continue in 2022, and we are expecting, if I'm not wrong, Symantec has actually just released a report last month, though it's not available to outside, but they have forecast that the mobile device attack itself will increase by 31% worldwide, which account for probably close to 30 billion attacks itself for the first half for this case. So you will be seeing that, and especially in the Eastern Europe side, that more such groups of espionage group, I would say cyber espionage group, are actually forming up and surfacing for this case. So the mobile devices is just wouldn't change the way of our life because of COVID, but it also will become a threat to you and me for that. Next, from personal, likewise, we will come to enterprise level, which is company, small, big, medium, or big. On the left itself is the return, or what I call return of low-level Bootkit Attack. May be very new to some of you, but it has been a topic that I've been observing, and I was right about it in a way, but I hope I was wrong. But as more systems are being attacked, as we can see, the humongous number of attacks that occur through our enterprise systems itself. So with that attack, definitely there's a countermeasure of a better, more advanced application security security application systems in place for this case. So making the attack even harder. So the cyber criminals itself, or the threat players itself, have decided to go back to the low-level Bootkit attack, which is used to be our golden era back in the 1980s itself for this case. So what Bootkit attack means is basically, in a simplified term, is that it attacks at the BIOS or at the startup of your system before even any antivirus or any security application can launch. That way itself, it can ensure that your system will be crippled for that reason. How can it be done? It definitely has to involve either both way. One is to plant a malicious inside the program with a time bomb for this case. So when the server restart, probably through annual maintenance or periodic maintenance, and sometimes you probably have to do a full start, a cold boot, which involves restarting the entire servers as well as the services. That is where the Bootkit attacks can trigger for this case, and it will cripple in the entire infrastructure system. The other way, likewise, will be using some form of insider's threat, which means you have access to it, you try to plant it manually in. And to be frank, such incident is not new. Back in, if I'm not wrong, 2010 or probably 2003, there was this US-Iran uranium, or so-called nuclear espionage on Iran's soil for this case, or probably Iran's facility. So a double agent for US actually plant a USB thumb drive into one of the system, launch the worm itself, crippled the entire uranium facilities of Iran that is for the purpose of developing nuclear weapons. So this actually slowed down the whole thing. It was again brought up recently for this case due to the Bootkit attack that we are speaking here. Cloud and security outsource service attack. True enough, with the more prominent of embracing cloud, I think most of our systems right now connecting from home are probably cloud-based because it's cheaper in cost itself. There's no burden on premises infrastructures dependency. But then with that itself, it needs to be strengthened. Especially areas of outsourced services like AWS, for instance, such itself will actually continue to have this problem. Supply chain attack. You may ask, Don, why supply chain attack? Okay, supply chain attack is not new, but I think in coming 2022, it will make a comeback. Just to share, in 2017, Target, which is a US retailer similar to like an NTUC for this case, but they do multi-retailing itself, was hacked in the POS system across 1,800 stores across US, resulting in $46 million loss in recovery and compensation. So why do I put supply chain attack in is because as the COVID continues, and I think it will continue till we reach an endemic situation. Our main so-called dependency in Singapore itself is still supply chain, which means we definitely need to receive goods itself overseas, deliver to probably supply, to the general population in Singapore, because we don't have natural resources apparently to actually sustain that. So the attack in this area can be prominent for this case. So this could be one of the problem itself that we see. Then for country level, likewise, as mentioned, the APT players. Okay, what APT means is actually advanced persistent threat players. So this influx of new persistent APT players itself are actually playing the role of espionage, especially in organized crime. They actually goes in three areas, whether they are established actor, we call that actors in IT term, emerging actors, and opportunities actor for this case. They can play different role. I quote a quick example for a established or probably a emerging actor first. 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 is the name of the cyber espionage group in China that actually operates out of Korea. And in 2015, they actually committed a data theft of 22 million records of government employees through the Office of Personnel Management, or they call it OPMO for this case in short. So that result in the theft of all the information, so their security numbers, their information, their friends. And a similar attack was also done in Sony. Probably you can Google for this group, which is Sony US, releasing all the information as such. And the next one will be established actors. Established actors, for example, will be a US military base, as I earlier mentioned, for this case, the Stuxnet, which actually disabled the nuclear program of Iran. And for that, opportunities actor itself actually happened in our own nation. If you recall, back in 2017, NUS and NTU experiencing intrusion concurrently in a matter of weeks, which is not the result of casual hackers itself. Why is because these APT actors itself are actually trying to attack archives of government projects that is probably developed or probably prepared by NTU and US, probably in conjunction back then with A-Star for this case. So they are trying to access this research archive, which fortunately it didn't get through. So with that itself, and our Singapore government actually start to realize, the importance of it, and they start to make a denouncement, and they also formed the CSA back then. CSA actually was formed already before 2017, but it was not formalized until 2017. So they are conducting these cyber attacks. And last but not least itself will be the geopolitics coordinated attacks. Again, this is a very new topic for this case. Geopolitics attack itself has an influence to your geographic, your economic, and your demographic itself. And with cyber information or internet information become more prominent, even in the third world country for this case itself, it can be posed as a, I would say, concern, political espionage itself. Why would I say that? Likewise, for instance, the coordinated attacks itself that was done on Yugoslavia for this case, to Russia, trying to infiltrate their data systems before they wage war. So in the latest concern about Russia and Ukraine, you are probably it's not reported, but we firmly believe, or at least in my own context, I firmly believe that they are trying to do a attack at the infrastructure level itself, which is what we call fire sales. So if you have watched Die Hard 4, the movie with John McClane, and on the attack of the whole infrastructures. Those are examples of geopolitics coordinated for this case. So with that itself, my last slide here is to share with you personally my afterthoughts, that if you are interested in a cybersecurity career as well as academic, I think is good. My first view, my personal view, that I even told my own fellows and my peers, the future is digital. We cannot reverse, and definitely specialty are growing and increasing as new vulnerabilities surfaces almost daily. So it definitely demands new techniques and new technologies, and if that is required, means you are needed. All of you are considered as important assets itself. And why is this so important? Because it takes usually 20 years or more to build a corporate reputation, but one cybersecurity breach incident ruined it all, which again, unfortunately, like the Sing Health incident, that the whole organization was put into a chastisement, for the general public. Cybersecurity knowledge, again, on the other hand, bridge the gap of assumption for this case that can prevent unimaginable damage that disrupt and destroy operation and livelihood. Simply to say, even if you are not in the area of cybersecurity, for example, you are in the area of ITSM, IT service management, you should be able to know the basic cybersecurity information to help, especially like in the case of looking at report trend. Why are there so many vulnerabilities reported by the users? And you can make full use of it with the acquired academic knowledge itself, or the additional knowledge you attain, and this helps in a way. I do not see this as a restriction. And last but not least, IT governance and compliance, which I'm a firm believer in this, because IT is no longer about infrastructure, no longer about hardware and software, or even application APIs. It's also about the whole framework of governance on the security levels. To be honest, if a hardware or a server can be a standalone, but by putting an application in, by putting the network in, the firewall in, and etc., or even the certificate itself, it become increasingly important. So then the question comes in: who is going to control it? Who is going to own it? Who is going to administer it? Who is going to abide it itself? Which will be the new norm in the corporation and organization for this case. So with that itself, I have ended my last session. I'm sorry that I overrun a bit by 3 minutes itself, but I hope all of you enjoy this session.